You, my friend, have been lied to when it comes to advertising. People have told you all sorts of pretty little lies to try and get you to buy their program or hire them as an agency owner, and you've likely been disappointed and never really understood why. They did not get the results that they promised, right? Well, here's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to show you the true way that advertising and marketing actually works. And then from there, we're just going to dismantle all their bullshit so you're immune to it like a ninja and you can Aikido, to all their bullshit. That's what you're going to be able to do. So let's go ahead. Let's get started. Okay, so here we are on the demonstration whiteboard. And what I'm going to show you is what most people say happens in marketing and advertising. So you get an ad and that ad sends someone to an opt-in and then they opt in with their email and phone number. And then they watch the VSL and then they watch this VSL and they book a call and they're taken to the thank you page. And then after the thank you page, they go to a sales call and then they buy, right? And so we're going to optimize for this. And then, maybe what's going to happen is that on that opt-in, they're going to give us their details and we're going to have a setter call them, and that setter is going to book the call with them and get them on the sales call, and then they'll buy, right? That's what everyone tells you. But in all actuality, here's what really happens. They see your ad and they ignore it. And then they see it again and they ignore it. And then they see it again and then they ignore it. And they see it once more and they ignore it again. And suddenly now you're popping up on their timeline so much that they can't help but watch it at least once. They're like, oh my God, let me at least hear what this guy has to say. I've skipped his ad 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Let me at least watch it. They watch your ad and they go, that's interesting. They then click on your page, go to the opt-in, and then realize they have to give their contact information and they leave. And then what ends up happening is they go and talk with their wife about something. They get in a big argument. Just her upset. And then he's like angry. Hey, by the way, real quick, just to interrupt this video, if you would like more help figuring out everything there is to know about your market so you can say the types of things that will actually get our little avatar here that we were talking about to take action and not just sit there and look at your ads and just continue on with their day. If we want to do something that actually gets them to click on your ad, do what you want them to do, we got to punch them in the balls. And if you'd like more help on how to actually punch them in the balls, I put together a free guide that shows you exactly how to write way more emotionally provoking copy inside of your marketing. Again, while you don't have control over everything, what you do have control over is the impact of your message. And if you want to have a higher impact, you need to write with more emotion. So if you want to find out more about that, just click the link in the description. You'll be taken to a page where you can put your information in there, and then I'll send you that guide on how to use more visceral, raw emotions inside of your marketing. So let's now get back to the video. Right? They get in a big argument. He decides that he's going to stay downstairs tonight and doesn't want to come up, and he's on his phone again. And he's just like, man, all angry and everything like that. And then from there, he sees another one of your ads. And he's like, oh my gosh, I cannot get this guy away from me today. There's all these ads attacking me. And he just gets so upset that he goes and he clicks that thing that says, stop showing this to me, whatever it is on Instagram, right? And he's just so frustrated. And then what ends up happening, let's just say in this case, you're running some sort of fitness offer that's helping people get in shape, is then like 6 weeks later, he sees that you went on a podcast with one of his favorite people, Dr. Schmuberman, whatever his name is, all right, something like that. Dr. Schumberman, whatever, right? Some sort of man, Schmidt, Steinberg, Gold, whatever. So they're on this podcast together. He sees them and says, hey, wait, I've seen that guy's ads everywhere. Oh, interesting. Okay. Got it. Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go check his stuff out. And so I go on his Instagram and I see his Instagram. In this case, I'm the guy. He sees your Instagram and he's just like, oh, okay, interesting. This guy's actually not a bad dude. I actually align with a lot of his views and his grid is super cool. And then he goes and he clicks the link in your bio. All right. He clicks that link. That's the link symbol. So he clicks that link in your bio and then he again sees the opt-in. And now he's like, oh my goodness, this happened. Okay. Well, he decides to put his opt-in information in. And then he goes and then he watches your VSL. And so he watches the VSL and he sees this and he's like, well, I guess this is an interesting approach to weight loss. And then all of a sudden the setter calls him. Setter calls him, he picks up the phone. Setter's like, hey, John, just saw, and then he gets super upset because he hates sales calls. So he just hangs up the phone. He's like, this guy's a scammer, right? And he just leaves and then he decides not to buy. And then what ends up happening is later that night, him and his wife are on the couch watching TV, right? This is the two of them. That's her hair right there. And she's sitting there and they're watching TV. And on the TV, there's this big, jacked, muscular guy with all these abs. And he's super big and he's just super handsome. It's his arms. And he's just like this super Chad giga traps. Like he's just massive. And his wife says something like, wow, he's hot. And that guy has a moment of insecurity and he's like, I'm not looking like that. And he's just like, what the heck? And so he starts to consider his fitness as well. He's like, I mean, I used to look like that, but I don't look like that anymore. And he's just like, honey, you wouldn't, love me more if I had muscles, would you? And she goes, no, I would. And he was just like, what? She's going to say something like, oh, well, I've always thought that guys with a lot of muscles are super attractive, but obviously I love you. So, I'm never going to judge you for it or tell you what to do. And so this guy realizes, man, I need to get jacked. And he just goes back to his life. He goes to bed, right? Here's him sleeping with his wife. They're there. And he lays up at night thinking about that situation with the guy on the TV. And he's just like, I really did not like that. And then next morning, he's having a cup of coffee. And during that cup of coffee, he decides to open up his phone. He then goes on Instagram. He sees a post from health fitness coach, jacked six-pack guy. And he's like, damn, this guy made a really good point about how the only time to lose weight that's the right time is right now. You don't want to wait. You want to just go and do it right now. You don't want to wait until it's too late because it's only getting worse day after day. And he decides, you know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to take action. And so he decides to go back to that funnel with the link in the bio, lands on there, and then from there goes to the thank you page. And then after the thank you page where he books his call and everything, he then hops on the sales call. He then, after that sales call, he decides to buy and he decides to pay in full. And then from there, he goes and refers 3 of his buddies who also did a really good job with their marriages and not being sexy for their wife. And they kind of all felt the same thing. And he refers 3 of his buddies and then you make more monies. Okay. So my friend, how the fuck are you going to track that? You're not. You're just not. There's no way to track this. And what you need to understand is that marketing is not linear. And I say that again. Marketing is not linear. It's quantum. Marketing is quantum. It does not work in a way that's predictable. I'm going to pull this lever. I'm going to pull this lever. I'm going to pull this lever. That's not how it works. It is not like an engine. Okay. People will say these things, and to a degree, you have some control over the build of the system, but you cannot control what happens inside the system. You can't. You can dance with it and you could try and figure it out and try and make better decisions in the way the system's set up to get more people to take action, right? We can act like we have control over the system. But as I just showed you in this giant, massive diagram, what you've seen is that this person's buying decision had very little to do with the system and had almost everything to do with their experience. And the human experience is not linear, as you can see. So what do you as a business owner do to account for this? That's a great question. I'm going to answer that for you right here on the whiteboard. You do it by understanding the only equation that actually can predict marketing success, okay? And what it is impact of message times frequency of message. Impact of message times frequency of message equals results. So let's say that we measure these on a scale of 1 to 10. And let's say you're not good at copywriting at all. You don't know how to come up with a good message. And so you have a 1 in terms of impact, which is a very bland chat GPT message. It doesn't really do much for the viewer. But you have a lot of ad spend. You just play it 10 in terms of all the time, constantly blasting on all platforms, the same ad consistently across the board. Well, what's going to happen is you'll see some results, but it won't really be all that much because, again, your impact of your message is very low. So these are the 2 factors that we do have control over. We have control of how often we post. We have control over how much ad spend we put out there. We have control over how many podcasts we decide to go on, et cetera, right? We have a deliberate choice on how much we want to spend, how much we want to do in terms of paid and organic. But when it comes to the impact, right, this is where it's not so much about your choice, but rather your skill level. And so people who have a better message see better results. And that's just the doggone honest truth, is that even if you have higher frequency, someone with a better message will lap you because this message, it pierces through the audience's fog of constant distraction and gets them to pay attention because it's a dang good message. And so these are the only two factors, my friends, that you have control over inside of your marketing. Nothing else. You can build the system. You kind of have control over that as well, but nothing else is within your control. The customer journey is not within your control. Nothing is within your control. The best thing that you can do with any form of a system is just release control and let it be exactly what it is. Do not try and change it, but rather take observation on what's happening and then use that as useful insights for what maybe needs to change. Interesting that deli workers seem to be coming through our funnel. I think that perhaps maybe our messaging is maybe appealing to the wrong audience. I don't think bus drivers are the right people to come through. Well, okay, well, we can't control it. That's what's happening right now, even though that, we're not talking to them. That's still who's coming through the funnel. Maybe we need to change our message, right? And so by changing the message on the front end, that actually helps everything else. So we change the ads, we change the VSL, we change all the messaging, the headlines, all that. And as a whole, the whole thing gets better. Right? So that's the truth of marketing, guys. You cannot control it to the degree that people tell you you can. You can only do your best to have a high frequency and a really good message. So if you are consistent for a long enough period of time and you have a really good message, you will see that your advertising and your marketing works. If you do not have those two things, if you have a shitty message and you're only here for a week, my friend, it will not work. So that's everything I got for you guys today. I hope you found this useful. Remember that equation: impact of message times frequency of message is what will get you the results that you want.